Okay. My inspiration to write Firstborn came when I was helping my daughter with a Civil War paper. And all I could think about was how these brave soldiers went into battle with nothing and how many were killed. It just blew me away. History was not a strong subject for me when I was younger, but now that I'm older, I look back and I want to learn everything. And it just came to me. I started to think, well, maybe these soldiers, what if they didn't die? What if they were immortal? What if that's how we won the war? So it just spiraled from there. And then I started delving farther into history. And I was reading the All Souls trilogy at the time by Deborah Harkness. And she made this tiny little reference to the lost colony of Roanoke in the second book. And so I started investigating the lost colony of Roanoke. And I thought, well, what if they weren't lost? What if they disappeared on purpose? What if they were the immortals? And they are my guardians of Dare. Hence, Dare from Eleanor White Dare is a real person in history. My research for Firstborn and First Awakened is a lot of scrolling the internet and just printing out articles and reading about history or some of my futuristic stuff like the solar energy systems and the DNA. And I did have to get the help of quite a few of my more intelligent friends on DNA. So my friends in the medical field helped me with that. The only thing I really needed to research were some of the medical terms. When I was trying to explain how they had oscillating DNA and different structures, I referred it to a person I know that helped me with that information. And then some of the military stuff. When I go to Tampa Writers Group, it's a group of like 25, 30 people from all different backgrounds. If I had a question, somebody there had an answer. We have a CIA person, a retired FBI agent, we have retired teachers. So they were very helpful. It took me about 4 years to write Firstborn. And then I went to Atlanta Writers Conference and found out that I had a lot of rewriting and editing and cutting to do. So I took the next year to polish and rewrite. And I joined Tampa Writers Critique Group. And for about 2 years, they kept telling me to redo things. But First Awaken was pretty easy, pretty quick. I guess I figured out what I was doing, and that took about a year. I knew more people in the industry for First Awaken, so I knew who to go to. I knew I had beta readers. I had an editor. I had all the tools. So it was a lot faster. And then you have to not listen to a lot of people. Some of it you just have to say, no, I don't agree. I'm going to stick to my gut. Found that out too. Can't please everybody, right? My writing rituals. I am a morning writer. I like to get up 4 o'clock in the morning and brew my coffee and sit down in peace and quiet before the rest of the house wakes up. If I don't get 2 or 3 hours of writing in before everybody wakes up, the day starts, and I always say I'm going to get back to it. Something happens. There's always an emergency. The dog gets sick, and suddenly I end up at the emergency room with my dog or something like that. So I like to do the early morning. I'm also blessed that I travel with my children for various reasons, and I'll be in a hotel room for a week or a weekend alone because they're off doing whatever it is we're there to do for them. And I'm by myself, even though I have fun with a lot of the moms. But when I started becoming serious about writing, I had to stop sitting around with the moms and say no to having lunch or coffee. I had to say no a lot and take my laptop and be by myself, write. Done a lot of my writing in the car as a mom driving my children to and from places, and you just sit there with nothing to do. So I have a laptop and a car, and I would sit there and write a lot, and it was quiet and private and nice. But then they started driving themselves, so I do most of my writing at home in my office, but I like it quiet for sure. I get distracted easily, so I try to keep the telephone and everything at bay. My method for writing is just do it. You can't go back. You have to just go forward. It's very hard. You want to correct every little detail. You just go forward. And on a separate piece of paper or on my phone, any idea that comes to you, you speak into your phone, you write it on the notes in your phone, or you write it on a piece of paper or wherever, but you don't go back. And then when you're finished, you look at your notes and you rewrite and you repolish. That's my method. Firstborn takes place a lot in Boston, which I'm familiar with Boston, but I'm mainly familiar with New England in general. And I haven't really gone to a lot of the places in the book. The places in my stories I haven't really been to. In First Awakened, there's a couple of places I would really enjoy going to, and it was fun to research. For one is the Cave of Hands, two is Angel Falls. As far as Firstborn, a lot of it takes place in Boston, and I'm very familiar with New England. Not necessarily Boston, but New England in general. When I first wrote Firstborn, I had a lot of backstory. I started at his father's death and the whole living with Zachary Eastwood and how he met Delia. And I cut all of that out. And so a lot of the stuff that I had originally put that Terry and Gabe and Maria were doing at EMA, I had to now turn that around because I didn't include any of the EMA. I did all this research on West Point. It was beautiful, and I cut it all out. So incorporating that information, that's when I came up with the realm. So I'm like, I have to do this game, but how do I put it into the story? So that was difficult. To be honest, a lot of it is fiction. It's definitely imagination. I guess I use my own emotions. Some of the more romantic scenes, it's funny because my children's friends just die reading them because they're like, I can't believe your mom wrote that. So I guess I didn't feel it was hard to write, but sometimes it's a little creepy when your children's friends read it and they think, oh my goodness. Staying determined to write Firstborn. I had reached a point in my life where I was ready. Like I said earlier, that I have some novels in my drawer from when I first graduated from college. And I didn't take the time. I didn't have the patience to rewrite, to polish, to join groups and listen to what other people have to say, to send it to beta readers and wait for them to respond. Maybe I was more into instant gratification back then. But as you get older, you get more determined. Or maybe it's just in certain people, but it wasn't in me before. And then the older I got, I was determined that it was a dream, it was a goal I had wanted for so long, and I kept putting it off. And suddenly I thought, there's never going to be a good time. Life is always going to be difficult and in the way, and you have to do it. And it was the age thing, I think. I definitely have the original first draft for Firstborn. I found it recently, and I was a little bit worried. I thought, oh my goodness, if I've lost that, because everything's on computers these days. So, and I love writing on the computer. I know some people probably still handwrite, but I love the computer. And I found that, and I still have it, and I'm determined to keep it. As for First Awaken, I'm not sure. My determination for the whole trilogy came from an agent I met at Atlanta Writers Conference. He wanted to see all 3 books, and he wanted an outline for all 3 books. Went home, and I did a complete outline for books 2 and 3. And it helped me speed book 2 along because I had the outline. I'd already spent the time on that. And I wanted it to be ready for the next BookCon. So BookCon was definitely it had to be done. It had to be out before June 3rd of 2017. And I got it out in March. So